Four married blokes head out for a fishing trip. About an hour in, they start swapping stories. The first guy says, "You wouldn't believe what I had to do just to get here. I had to promise my wife I'd paint every room in the house next weekend." The second guy laughs. "That's nothing. I had to agree to build her a brand new pool deck." The third guy shakes his head. "You two had it easy. I've promised a full kitchen remodel." They carry on fishing for a bit, then notice the fourth guy's been completely quiet. So one of them asks, "All right, what about you? What did you have to do to get out here this weekend?" The fourth guy shrugs and says, "I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m. When it went off, I turned it off, gave my wife a nudge, and said, 'Fishing or sex?' She said, 'Wear sunblock.'"
An elementary school class was visiting the local police station on a field trip. While walking through the building, an officer stopped in front of a wall displaying the 10 most wanted fugitives and began explaining it to the class. He pointed to the photo at the top and said, "This man here is currently the most wanted criminal in the United States." A little Johnny raised his hand and asked, "So he's the most wanted fugitive in the whole country?" The officer nodded and said, "That's right, son." Johnny thought about it for a moment, looked at the photo again, and then asked, "Then why didn't you keep hold of him when you took his picture?" Old Farmer Hank lived along a quiet country road for years. Life was peaceful until they built a brand new high school right across the highway. Suddenly, traffic exploded. Teenagers flying down the road, morning, noon, and night. And poor Hank's free-range chickens started paying the price. 3, sometimes 6 chickens a week were getting hit by speeding cars. Fed up, Hank called the local police. "Please do something about these drivers," he pleaded. So the police came out and installed a big warning sign, "School crossing." But if anything, drivers sped up even more. So they tried another sign, "Slow, children at play." Still no luck. Cars kept flying past like it was a racetrack. Finally, Hank called the police again and said, "Mind if I put up my own sign?" The officer shrugged and said, "Sure, at this point we'll try anything." A week later, the officer drove by to see how things were going. He slammed on the brakes and burst out laughing. Hank's new sign read, "Nudist Colony. Slow down and watch out for the chicks." A man meets a beautiful, really sexy girl. He really wants her, so he invites her to a movie, and she tells him, "Listen, if it's sex you're after, then there is no need to get me dinners, movie evenings, and all that. Just buy me a good Swiss Army knife." The guy thinks, it's true, he's not interested in something long-term, so he buys her a good, genuine Victorinox. They come to her home. She opens a big chest standing in a closet and puts his knife there. The guy sees that the chest is half filled with such knives already. Then she takes him to her bedroom for a wonderful night together. The next morning, they're sitting at her kitchen drinking tea, and he asks her, "Can I ask you a question? What would you need so many knives for?" "You see," she explains, "I'm young now, I'm beautiful, I have no trouble finding guys. In fact, they're the ones chasing me, but I know it doesn't last forever. One day I'll be older, gray-haired, and I'll be the one looking everywhere for a piece of love. And then, do you have any idea what a boy of 18 would be willing to do for a good Swiss Army knife?" By the time Mike pulled into a small town, every hotel was completely full. "Come on," he said to the last desk clerk. "You've got to have something. Even a couch. I'm exhausted." The clerk hesitated. "Well, I do have a shared room with one other guest. Only problem is he snores like a chainsaw. No one's lasted the night yet." Mike shrugs. "I'll take it." Next morning, Mike strolls down to breakfast looking bright and cheerful. The clerk says, "Wait, you actually slept? No issues with the snoring?" Mike grins. "Nope, sorted it in about 2 minutes." "Seriously? How?" Mike leans in and says, "When I got in, he was already out cold. So I walked over, gave him a little kiss on the cheek, and whispered, 'Sweet dreams, gorgeous.' From that moment, he didn't snore at all. He sat up all night keeping an eye on me." The poor man asks the rich man, "What are you getting your wife this Christmas?" The rich man replies, "Diamond earrings and a Mercedes." The poor man asks, "Why are you getting her 2 gifts?" The rich man says, "Well, if she doesn't like the earrings, then she can drive to the store and exchange them." The poor man nods. Then the rich man asks him, "So what are you getting your wife this year?" The poor man thinks about it for a second and replies, "A pair of slippers and a dildo." The rich man asks, "Why those 2 things?" The poor man astutely responds, "This way, if she doesn't like the slippers, she can go f herself." In London, at a busy bus stop, a woman who was waiting for a bus was wearing a tight leather skirt. As the bus stopped and it was her turn to get on, she became aware that her skirt was too tight to allow her leg to come up to the height of the first step of the bus. Slightly embarrassed, and with a quick smile to the bus driver, she reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little, thinking that this would give her enough slack to raise her leg. Again, she tried to make the step, only to discover she still couldn't. So, a little more embarrassed, she once again reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little more. For the second time, she attempted the step, and once again, much to her chagrin, she could not raise her leg. With a little smile to the driver, she again reached behind to unzip a little more, and again was unable to make the step. About this time, a big man who was standing behind her picked her up easily by the waist and placed her gently on the step of the bus. She went ballistic and turned to the would-be Samaritan and screeched, "How dare you touch my body? I don't even know who you are." The man smiled and drawled, "Well, ma'am, normally I would agree with you, but after you unzipped my fly 3 times, I kind of figured we were friends." A local factory was having a problem with thefts. They suspected that the night shift was stealing stuff, so they put an ad in the newspaper for a night watchman to try and catch the thief. Boudreau applied and got the job. His first night on the job, as the workers were getting off, he checked each one of them, checking lunch pails, pockets, everything, but found no one with anything out of the ordinary. Until one worker walked out pushing a wheelbarrow full of newspapers. Boudreau knew he had his thief. He figured that the man was covering his pilfered goods with the newspapers, so he checked under all of the papers only to find nothing. Questioning the man, he was told that he collects all of the old newspapers from the lunch and break rooms to sell them. Well, Boudreau figured that he was going to keep a close eye on this guy because he had to be up to something. Every morning for the next year, as the night shift was getting off, Boudreau would perform his searches, and every morning the man would leave with his wheelbarrow full of newspapers. But Boudreau never caught anyone stealing. One night, when Boudreau reported for work, he found his supervisor waiting for him. The boss told Boudreau, "You haven't been doing your job, you're fired." Of course, this catches Boudreau by surprise, because he thought he had done an excellent job and told the boss as much. The boss asks Boudreau, "Okay, then how do you explain that the factory is missing 365 wheelbarrows?" An old man is selling watermelons. His price list reads 1 for $3, 3 for $10. A young man stops by and asks to buy 1 watermelon. "That'd be $3, says the old man. The young man then buys another one and another one, paying $3 for each. As the young man is walking away, he turns around, grins, and says, "Hey, old man, do you realize I just bought 3 watermelons for only $9? Maybe business is not your thing." The old man smiles and mumbles to himself, "People are funny. Every time they buy 3 watermelons instead of 1, yet they keep trying to teach me how to do business." One day, while a woodcutter was cutting a branch of a tree above a river, his axe fell into the river. When he cried out, the Lord appeared and asked, "Why are you crying?" The woodcutter replied that his axe had fallen into the water, and he needed the axe to make his living. The Lord went down into the water and reappeared with a golden axe. "Is this your axe?" the Lord asked. The woodcutter replied, "No." The Lord again went down and came up with a silver axe. "Is this your axe?" the Lord asked. Again, the woodcutter replied, "No." The Lord went down again and came up with an iron axe. "Is this your axe?" the Lord asked. The woodcutter replied, "Yes." The Lord was pleased with the man's honesty and gave him all 3 axes to keep, and the woodcutter went home happy. Sometime later, the woodcutter was walking with his wife along the riverbank, and his wife fell into the river. When he cried out, the Lord again appeared and asked him, "Why are you crying?" "O Lord, my wife has fallen into the river." The Lord went down into the water and came up with Jennifer Lopez. "Is this your wife?" the Lord asked. "Yes," cried the woodcutter. The Lord was furious. "You lied. That is an untruth." The woodcutter replied, "Oh, forgive me, my lord, it is a misunderstanding. You see, if I had said no to Jennifer Lopez, you would have come up with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Then, if I also said no to her, you would have come up with my wife. Had I then said yes, you would have given all 3 to me. Lord, I am a poor man, and I'm not able to take care of all 3 wives, so that's why I said yes to Jennifer Lopez." The moral of this story is, whenever a man lies, it is for a good and honorable reason and for the benefit of others. An elderly man walked into a store with a salesman wanted sign in a window. He walked up to the owner and said, I want that job." "I don't know if this job would suit you because of your speaking impediment," said the owner. I have a wife and 6 kids. I need this job," the man said. "Okay, here are 3 Bibles. Go out and sell them," the owner said. So the man went out and came back an hour later. "Here's your money, ma'am," the older man said. The owner was impressed, so he gave the man an extra dozen Bibles and sent him out. The man came back 2 hours later and said, "Here's your money." The owner said, "This is fantastic. You sold more Bibles in 3 hours than anyone has sold in a week. Tell me, what do you say to the people when they come to the door?" "Well," said the old man, I ring the doorbell and say, 'Hello, madam. Do you want to buy this Bible? Or do you want me to read it to you?'" One Sunday morning, the pastor announced that the church was trying to raise some extra funds and asked everyone to give whatever they felt led to give. He added, "And whoever gives the largest offering today will get to choose 3 hymns." When the ushers brought the plate back, the pastor spotted a $1,000 bill. His jaw nearly hit the floor. Delighted, he told the congregation he wanted to personally thank the generous donor. A sweet elderly lady in the last row slowly lifted her hand. Smiling, the pastor invited her to come forward and praised her kindness. "Now," he said, "as promised, you get to select any 3 hymns you want." Her eyes sparkled as she looked around the church. She pointed at 3 of the best-looking men in the room and cheerfully said, "I'll take him, and him, and him." Paul got a part-time job at the post office. He was thrilled because he had been looking for employment for a while without any luck. It wasn't long before his first day arrived, and he headed to the post office brimming with confidence. The first assignment his supervisor gave him was the job of sorting the mail. Paul separated the letters so fast that his motions were literally a blur. His supervisor was astounded at his speed. At the end of the first day, he approached Paul. "I just want you to know," the supervisor said, "that I'm very pleased with the job you did today. You're one of the fastest workers we've ever had." "Thank you, sir," said Paul, beaming, "and tomorrow I'll try to do even better." "Better?" the supervisor asked with astonishment. "How can you possibly do any better than you did today?" Paul replied, "Tomorrow
I'm going to read the addresses.
A man is trying to understand the nature of God, time, and the universe. He asks God, "How long is 1,000,000,000 years to you?" God says, "1,000,000,000 years is like a second to me." The man asks, "Well, how much is $1,000,000,000 to you?" God says, $1,000,000,000 is like a penny to me." So the man says, "God, can I have a penny?" And God replies, "In a sec." A stuffy matron is with a new man in a top restaurant. The onion soup gets to her, and as the waiter is serving the main dishes, she lets loose a bombastic fart. Trying to save face, she says to the waiter, "Please stop that immediately." "Certainly, madame," replies the waiter with a bow. "Which way was it headed?" A French, a German, and an Italian spy are captured one day. The captors grab the French spy, take him to the next room, and tie his hands behind a chair. They then proceed to torture him for 2 hours before he finally cracks, answers all questions, and gives up all of his secrets. The captors then grab the German spy. They tie his hands behind the chair in the next room too and torture him for 4 hours before he finally cracks and tells them what they want to know. They then grabbed the Italian spy. Once again, they tie his hands behind the chair and begin torturing him. 4 hours go by, and the spy isn't talking. Then 8 hours, then 16, and after 24 hours, they give up and throw him back into the cell. The German and French spies are impressed and ask him how he managed to not talk. The Italian spy says, "I wanted to, but I couldn't move my hands." A passenger jet was suffering through a severe thunderstorm. As the passengers were being bounced around by the turbulence, a young woman turned to a minister sitting next to her and, with a nervous laugh, asked, "Reverend, you're a man of God. Can't you do something about this storm?" To which he replies, "Lady, I'm in sales, not management." A man named Jack strides into John's stable looking to buy a horse. "Listen here," says John, the owner. "I've got just the horse you're looking for. The only thing is, he was trained by an interesting fellow. He doesn't stop and go the usual way. The way to get him to stop is to yell, 'Hey, hey,' and the way to get him to go is by yelling, 'Thank God.'" Jim nodded his head. "Fine with me. Can I take him for a test run?" John agrees. A few minutes later, Jim is having the time of his life, thinking to himself that the horse sure could run fast. As he speeds down a dirt road, he panics as he realizes there's a cliff edge fast approaching. "Stop!" screams Jim, to no avail. He remembers what he has to say to make the horse stop just 5 feet from the edge and yells, "Hey, hey!" The horse skids to a halt with just an inch to spare before a sheer drop of hundreds of feet. Gasping, Jim looks over the cliff edge in disbelief at his good fortune. He looks up to the sky, raises his hands in the air, and breathes a deep sigh of relief. "Oh," he says, relieved. "Thank God." 3 prisoners are on death row and are about to be executed. They are asked what they wish to have for their last meal. One man asks for pepperoni pizza, which he is served and then taken away. The next man requests a filet mignon, which he is served and also taken away. The last man requests a plate of strawberries. The guards are surprised and reply, "Strawberries?" "Yes, strawberries. But they are out of season." "I'll wait." A blonde hadn't been to church for many, many months. She always promised to go, but never did. One day, the pastor was astounded when she suddenly showed up for Sunday service. Thereafter, she was at every Sunday service, every prayer meeting, every home group meeting, etc. 3 months later, one Sunday after the service, the pastor asked her, "What happened to you? You always dodged church, and now it looks like you can't get enough of it." She replied, "It's this new car of mine, Pastor. They told me the warranty will lapse if I miss even one service." A group of tourists was visiting a crocodile farm, and they were in a floating structure in the middle of a crocodile lake. The owner of the farm shouted, "Whoever jumps into the water and swims to shore will receive $10 million." The silence was deafening. Suddenly, a man jumped into the water. He was chased by crocodiles, but with great luck, he was unharmed. The owner announced, "We have a winner." After receiving their reward, the man and his wife return to the hotel room. The man tells his wife, "I did not jump in myself. Someone pushed me." His wife smiled and said coldly, "It was me." Moral of the story? Behind every successful man, there is always a woman to give him a little push.
A guy walks into a bar and sees two steaks hanging from the ceiling. He sits down, orders a beer, and asks the bartender, "What's the deal with the steaks?" "It's a competition. If you can jump up and slap both steaks at the same time, one with each hand, you win the bar. If you try and fail, you pay for everyone's drinks for the rest of the night." The man sits down and thinks about it, and a few minutes later the bartender asks him if he would like to try. "Nah, the stakes are too high." Another man heard the offer. He'd been having money troubles all his life, but had slowly begun turning his life around. He had saved money and paid off most of his debts. It had been a struggle, though, and he wasn't sure he could keep doing it much longer. He thought if he could just win this bet, well, everything would be fine. Of course, if he lost the bet, paying everyone's bar tabs would be enough to financially ruin him. What the heck, he thought. He had played basketball in high school and considered himself to still be in good shape. He crouched down and jumped as high as he could with all his might. Her right hand stretched, and just with the barest of touches, his middle finger grazed the hanging meat. In the same movement, his left hand turned to the steak. His reach came ever so close to the steak, but alas, no contact was made. As the realization flooded over him, he crumpled to the ground and cried, "How could I let one missed steak ruin my life?"